Detroiters episode 3, Sam the Man. Really enjoyed this one. Made me crack up, of course. And I mentioned this in all my. I'm eventually gonna stop, but basically for this, I'm just gonna jump straight to the stuff that made me laugh the most in this episode. And oddly enough, like I was laughing throughout this whole episode, but the biggest thing that comes to mind when I think of this is that commercial. That made me laugh so much because I just wasn't expecting that. Like they already had the really like crazy ad where he went like full prostitute. It was like, do you want a good time and all that stuff, and I was like, well, that's really bad idea to do that. But then he has the full-on commercial, which was absolutely hilarious, and he's not wearing a shirt. He's got like the Miami Vice suit jacket thing going, but not even a t-shirt underneath, just nothing. And he's dancing around, and the effects that they have with the fire and all that stuff, and he's like, want a good time and stuff. And then he's like, I think he just said like the butt or something like that. And he's like, yeah, and he like winks. It just had me cracking up. I was like, that is absolutely hilarious. Like I guess every episode is gonna be like at least one commercial, but that was absolutely hilarious. It cracked me up. And then after that, when Sam ends up talking to the girl by the pool table, Tim comes over, just like he'd been doing the whole episode when they were together. He's just screwing him over big time with the ladies. And, the beginning of the episode, the lady tries to talk to Sam, and Tim's just like, I'm sorry. It's like, you just interrupt people's conversations? Like, crazy. Like, get out of here. And then he's like, why don't you ever settle down? Stuff like that. And then the ending one, it made me laugh, but it was one of those things where, you could laugh at it and also kind of cringe at it a little bit, too, because it's like, man, it's fake, but you still just feel bad for this guy where his buddy is trying to help him, but in like the worst way he could possibly do that. And it's just like, I don't know this guy, but he's a really cool dude. And then unfortunately, after that I thought it was over, and he was like, well, Sam's able to kind of play it off like, that was really weird. And they're just starting to talk, and I was like, okay, that wasn't as bad as I thought. And then I think that was the first out of like 4, maybe 5 full times that Tim just comes over and really F's him up. And it was hilarious to me, especially when he comes back as like, he's like, I was his Uber driver, and then he comes back and he's like, 2 stars after you farted in my car, and it's just like, what is he doing? Like, it was just so bad. And he even says it at the end, like, I don't know what's wrong with me, I don't think I want you to be happy without me, or something like that. And it was just so funny. And then once all that's finally said and done, and Sam's with the woman, and she's like, you're that prostitute, and he has like this laugh. And the reason it made me laugh so hard is because it honestly sounded like he laughed once, and then they like just put it on repeat, and it was just the same sound effect for like 10 straight seconds. And I was like, it just cracked me up because it didn't change at all until like the very end. It's just like, and it was like that the whole way through. And he's just like, no, I'm not a prostitute. She just paid me to have sex. And then it just ends. He's just like, whoops. And that was just it. And it made me laugh so hard. I thought that was such a funny freaking moment in the episode. Tim and his wife were hilarious as well when they tried to do like the fake prostitute thing. And of course, he uses Sam's name, and then he uses his wife's name, and it's just like, what is wrong with, like, just, it was so funny. He's like, I'm just bad at making up names. I'm like, what is it? Why not use his own name? And then she's trying to like downplay him when he says $1 million. She's like, $1 million? She's like, it's fake money. And it was just so funny. I was like, wow, like they're having this crazy argument over like fake money and what he's really worth and stuff like that. That made me laugh really hard. When they're at the D.I.A, which kind of goes into the other part of this series for me, where it's like, oh, they were in this place, or they mentioned this stuff. But they're at the D.I.A, and he's yelling and stuff, and like, I'm just a big dick for money and stuff like that, and it just made me laugh so much. And of course, even after everything was said and done, as he's leaving out, he's just like, just a huge penis, just huge, and he's just walking out, and it just made me laugh so much. But it really silly episode that started off kind of simple, and it was Sam not really being able to have a girlfriend. He thinks he's about to get one, and he finds out that he's, believed to be a prostitute, so he kind of goes full force with it. Even though he doesn't actually go anywhere, he was only with the councilwoman, and that was pretty much it. And her referencing him during the speech and stuff, just like at the same time, and then she's like, I'm sorry, at the same time. And it's like, wow, it's so subtle. But really good episode. Of course, the references to the city itself, like I said, they were at the D.I.A, which is pretty cool. D.I.A is an amazing place if you've never been there. A lot of people actually come from all over the country, I believe, to go to the D.I.A and maybe all over the world. I mean, most museums, if they're big, they typically have something that's fairly exclusive. So we've got some pretty good stuff in there. I actually really enjoy going to the D.I.A. But that was really cool. They had so much funnier references. When the people were like, yeah, let's go to Meyer and get some like crackers and pop, and that made me laugh. I was like, they just kept saying pop because that's what we say here. We don't say soda, we say pop up here. And it was just funny. I was like, yeah, let's get some pop. But yeah, I said pop. I was like, let's go to Meyer and get some pop. And I was like, that's here. I don't know. The crackers thing, maybe that's just, I don't know. Do people have a different word for crackers? Because I don't know about that. But that made me laugh. Myers. They talk about Vernors, which is definitely not everywhere, which is very unfortunate. Like, if you don't have Vernors, I'm sorry. It's really, really good. Even New York doesn't have Vernors. Like, my uncle lives there. Well, not anymore, but he did. And that was always like his big thing when he came back to town, was that he always had to get Vernors because they didn't sell. They don't have it in New York. But they reference Vernors. There's a part where I forgot where they were, but somebody was drinking like Faygo Red Pop. They were drinking the diet version. But I was like, yep, Faygo Red Pop. That's actually a pop or soda, if you prefer. Actually made in the city of Detroit. And so, that's one of the big things we have. Vernors is as well. And weird thing about Vernors, since a lot of people don't actually have it, you guys won't know this weird history about it. But the reason that they did this, where Tim was like, make sure he gets Vernors, and he was sick, and he was like, make sure he gets Vernors for me, is because Vernors was actually made as medicine. It was initially made as medicine, and then it kind of, I don't know, I guess it just tasted really good, and, the whole soda pop scene came around, and was like, well, let's just switch this over, and so now, instead of being medicine, it's pop. It's pop. So I thought that's like the crazy history of Vernors. Like, it started off as medicine, and then it became just a drink, and that was pretty much it. So if you're sick, that's kind of the thing, is like you drink orange juice. If you're from Michigan, you get orange juice, of course, which everybody does. But we have Vernors. It's the one pop you can drink while you're sick because it was initially made as medicine. Now, that may not have anything to do with the way it's made now. I'm sure it does, just it was probably never as healthy as it was supposed to be anyway, considering the time it was actually made. Just going back, way, way back. Things made as medicine, they use Coke sometimes, so you don't really know what was actually helping people or not, so it probably doesn't have any real value, but that's kind of what it was made for. So whenever I get sick, I drink Vernors too, because I'm like, it's the medicine pop. Like, it's my excuse for it. It probably has no actual value, but I still drink it. It's definitely strong, for sure, so it might actually have some value there still. But that's what Vernors kind of is for the people in Michigan and, specifically Detroit. So that's kind of why Tim asked for that, for anyone who might not know, because it was initially made as medicine, and so now a lot of people kind of drink it when they're sick because it's still medicine a little bit. So that was the thing there, and I love that. I was like, yeah, that's a cool way to reference that and its history. It may have just been a simple way to reference Vernors, but I'm pretty sure that was the point, is because Vernors was initially made as medicine, and it's like, he's sick or his stomach was acting up, give me some Vernors. So it was funny. I love that. I was like, yep, I totally get that, because if I'm sick, I always say I want Vernors and orange juice. I don't mix them together, and typically I just get Vernors because I prefer Vernors. But love that. Like I said, the Myers thing, and them saying pop a bunch, and like, yeah, we said pop here. So it was just really funny. And I don't, the audience of Comedy Central, a lot of people that don't know what, Vernors is, or, Faygo, which it's not just Red Pop. We have Faygo. There are a million different flavors. It's just like any sort of brand. But yeah, it was just cool. It was cool to get those references from like our specific drinks. Ohio actually has Faygo. That's like the only other state that I can really think of that actually has Faygo as well, outside of Michigan. So I know Ohio has it. I'm sure there's some other states, at least close by. I don't think all of Ohio has it, but like if you're close to Michigan and stuff, and you go to Ohio, like upper parts of Ohio probably have Faygo. Maybe like the southern parts of Ohio probably don't have it, just because of travel distance and all that. But I know Ohio has it, at least in some locations. And other than that, I really don't know what states have Faygo. So that's just the crazy thing. But it's just really funny. I really enjoyed this episode. As always, I love the references where it's like, oh, I know why they said this, or just mentioning Meyer. I didn't know Meyer was like a thing here. I mean, they say Meyer, but I'm like, I thought Meyer was, it was like Walmart. It's just all over the place. I was always pretty sure it was, But there are tons of chains where you just assume they're all over the place, and they're not. Like, a good example is like the Wawa. That's a place that I never heard of until like a year and a half ago because I was working out of state. And I was like, I've never heard of this place, but it's like a big brand gas station where you can like get food and stuff. I never heard of that before in my life. I'm like, okay, it's here. So, that's, I think that was New York where I was at where that happened. So different places have different things, and sometimes you just assume that a brand or like a store chain is just everywhere, and it's like, no, it's actually only here, stuff like that. So I thought that was interesting. I'm assuming that's why they referenced Myers specifically, because it's like, that's actually just here, but and maybe in some other surrounding areas. But certainly love this episode. Had me cracking up at that freaking commercial. It was just so dumb, but I love the commercials. Every commercial has made me laugh really hard. Like the first episode made me laugh like crazy, where it was like this super somber commercial where he's like, I would, you wouldn't date someone like me, would you? And stuff like that. And then, of course, the last episode where the dude got beat up at the end, he's like, but I'm white. That had me cracking up. And then this one had me rolling too. So, love the commercials. I don't know where they come up with the crazy ideas for that, but so far, the commercials have just been absolutely hilarious for me. And then, even outside of that, I laugh like crazy at this show. But love the references to the city, things we have that are exclusive to us, whether it be like actual items or just, vocabulary as far as pop, because I know that's a ginormous debate. It was like pop or soda, and if you go down south, of course you say soda. I had that happen to me on the cruise where I was like, you guys have, like, where's your pop? And the guy was like, huh? And I was like, soda. And he was like, oh, it's over here. And I was like, yeah, for a totally different area. I gotta remember to say soda. So I've had that happen to me, and I was like, yeah, it's kind of funny just going down south and having that happen where it's like, I mean soda, because I can't say pop because it's weird. But love what they did. Cool that they showed the D.I.A. Like I said, D.I.A. absolutely amazing place if you love art. Just sculptures, paintings, everything arts. There's even like a cool little place. There's like a mini cafe. It's almost like you went into like a castle courtyard. I don't know why they built it that way, but it looks amazing when you actually go in there. It's actually really cool. But really great place to go to, especially if you happen to be from the city of Detroit, because it's free if you are. But I think it's only like, it's fairly cheap. It's a museum, so, museum, help the city, help my city. But a really cool place. Like I said, love the references, love the comedy in general for this episode. Of course, would love to know what in the world made you guys laugh the most. If you're from the city, what reference did you like the most, as far as like Vernors and them showing Fago and stuff like that. For me, I have to say the Vernors thing, because I do assume that the reason they did that was because of the history of Vernors, with it being made as medicine originally. So it just made me love it, because, for anyone who doesn't know, it's just like, oh, he just wanted a certain pop, or you don't even know what Vernors is, because they don't actually show it, but it's a pop, or a soda. So for anyone who didn't know, it's like, I don't even know what Vernors is. You probably would have assumed that it was medicine in the actual episode, because I'm pretty sure they don't actually show it at all, but they mention it. So it's soda. It wasn't even medicine. I didn't even think of that as I was doing my big explanation on the history of Vernors. But yeah, they don't actually show it, so you would probably just assume it was medicine. So that's definitely my favorite reference in this episode for sure. But like I said, would love to know yours if you're familiar with the city. And if not, just what made you laugh the most in this episode. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.